Okay, so what we're doing here today is we're recording some equilibria for the LeChatelier's principle, to illustrate this LeChatelier's principle. So for each of the setups that we're going to do, we have to make an equilibrium mixture of the different things, and then we are going to disturb the equilibrium by either changing the concentration or changing the temperature. And then we are going to note what happens, and then we are going to try to explain what happens using LeChatelier's principle. Equilibria of iron 3+, thiocyanate, and iron thiocyanate. So we have to create the equilibria first, and it says to put 20 milliliters of deionized water into a 100 ml beaker. Now we are going to add 20 drops of iron nitrate. So we have iron nitrate. So that's one of the two reactants. The other reactant is potassium thiocyanate, so SCN- is thiocyanate. We're going to add 20 drops of this as well, and then this will create our equilibrium. Mix that up, and you can see, note the color. Right. And it says to obtain 3 small test tubes, which I already got here labeled. And we are going to, using a 10 milliliter graduated cylinder, I'm going to put 3 milliliters of this solution into each of these test tubes. Okay. So we have 3 milliliters of the solution in each one of those test tubes. Try to zoom in for you so you can see that. Okay. Now, to each of these, right, so we have an equilibrium going on. To each of these, we are going to the first two, we are going to disturb the equilibrium by adding more of one of the two reactants. And in the third test tube, we're going to add just distilled water. So we're going to use that one as our reference. Now the distilled water will dilute it just as much as I'm going to dilute the other two tubes, so that way we can compare the colors. Okay, so I'm going to do that one first. So I'm going to add 20 drops of distilled water to tube number 3. I need to mix that up a little bit. Okay. Now, into test tube 1, I'm going to add 20 more drops of the iron nitrate. Test tube 2, I'm going to add 20 drops of the thiocyanate, the potassium thiocyanate. And then I'll mix them and we'll look at the colors. Okay, so you're comparing the colors in test tube 1 and test tube 2 with the color in test tube number 3. Tighten that up a little bit. Okay. I'll take them out of the rack so that you'll have a nice white background to hopefully see the colors. If I can do this. There you go, so you can see the numbers. The equilibrium of hexa-aqua nickel, ammonia, and hexaamine nickel, 2+. Okay, all of this is going to happen in one test tube, and so again we have to create the equilibrium first. And so we are going to start with the test tube. We are going to add nickel nitrate, 10 drops to the test tube, so there's not going to be a whole lot in here. So just to note what the color is of the nickel with the water. Okay, tighten in on that, see if we can put that here. Okay. Then where I'm going to add a few drops of ammonia. Okay, so this is why we're doing this one in the hood. because ammonia has an awful odor. So it says just a few drops. We'll see what happens to the color. That's the color with the amine. Get the tray out of there. Okay. So now we've got an equilibrium. We've got water and we've got the ammonia in there. And so now we're going to disturb it by adding some hydrochloric acid, 6 molar hydrochloric acid. Let's see what happens. Okay, you may have seen a little bit of vapor. That's just because it does get hot by doing the reaction. But you should be able to see the color there. Equilibrium of calcium hydroxide, solid, and its ions, calcium 2+ and hydroxide ion. So this equilibria, we have to make it again, but this equilibria is 2 phases. It has solid and an aqueous phase. So first I'm going to add a little bit of the solid, so I have a big jar here of calcium hydroxide. And I'm going to add some to that little beaker. Try not to add too much so it doesn't take too long. Okay. Set that aside. And then I'm going to add 10 milliliters of deionized water so that I have an equilibrium between the solid and the solution. Ions. So you can see that it is a cloudy white solid is suspended. Some of it has dissolved, but some of it has not. Okay. Now I'm going to disturb that equilibria first by adding 6 molar hydrochloric acid, and I've already measured out 2 milliliters of that, so we're going to add that and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed that, but a bunch of it dissolved right when I added it, and it's still reacting. I'm going to try to tighten in on that, see if we can see that. Okay, so you should see that reacting. I'm going to try get in on, look down on it, and we'll see if you can see it that way as well. Okay, so now you can see down into there. You can see almost all the solid has dissolved. There's still a few little chunks, but you might be able to see that it's still reacting a little bit. Okay, so we'll give this a little more time, and then we'll do another disturbance here. Okay, so it's been a couple of minutes, and you can see that it's all dissolved here. Okay, so now I'm going to add some 6 molar NaOH. I'm going to add 5 milliliters, so I'm going to add a bunch more than I added the HCl, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so you can see we've got the white solid came back. Okay, the equilibria of hexa-aqua, cobalt 2+, chloride ion, and tetrachlorocobaltate 2-. So again, we're going to have to make the equilibrium mixture. So I'm going to start by using some cobalt nitrate dissolved in water. So cobalt dissolved in water. I'm going to put about 5 drops into this test tube here. We're going to note this color. Take it out of the rack so you can see the color a little easier. Okay, maybe zoom in a little bit. Okay, because there's not much in there, but you should be able to see that color. Now, I have to add the chloride ion, and to do that, I'm going to use concentrated HCl. And because it's concentrated, that's why I'm wearing gloves. I'm going to add, I think about 10 to 20 drops. We're going to see what happens here. So this is the color of the tetrachlorocobalt 2-. Okay, so I've pushed it all the way, the equilibrium all the way to that side, so before I do any other adjustments to it, I'm going to add a little bit of deionized water, try to get it back to kind of the midpoint here from between the two colors we just seen. So we're going to add 5 to 10 drops of water here. Okay, mix that up. Alright, so that's the color it is here at the start. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the temperature by putting it into a hot water bath and a cold water bath. Yeah, but we'll pause it here for now. Okay, so I have a hot water bath. I have my test tube here and a test tube holder. And I'm going to put it in the hot water bath, and hopefully you'll notice the color change. If you can't see a color change, I'm going to move it over on top of a white background, and that might help. So let's see if anything happens getting it hot. Okay, let me turn that so you can see. Okay, so hopefully you can see that color. Okay, when it gets hot, I'm going to pull it over a white background and see if that we can still see it. Okay, so you can see it there. Okay, over the white background. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in an ice bath. So I have a beaker with some ice. Okay. See if I can sit this so that you can see it. And I'm going to put the test tube that has that color. I'm going to put it in the ice bath, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, now this one you're not going to be able to see because of the ice, but we'll leave it in there. We'll let it chill down, and then we'll pull it out, and should be able to see it on the white background. So we'll give it a second here. Okay, so it's been in the ice for 30 seconds to a minute. Let's see if we can see what the color looks like. Okay, so you can see that over the white background there. Move the beaker of ice out of the way. Okay, so that's the change. Okay, continuing with the equilibrium of hexaaqua cobalt 2+ chloride and tetrachlorocobaltate 2-, we're going to do something a little bit different here. I've got some solid cobalt chloride hexahydrate. Okay, so there's some water in the crystals, and I've weighed out about 0.4 grams into this little beaker, and so you can see the colors there of the crystal and solid. Okay, the solid. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, and into that, I'm not going to dissolve it in water this time. I'm going to dissolve it in ethanol, 95% ethanol. And so I've got 25 milliliters of that measured out in this graduated cylinder, so I'm going to try to dissolve that in ethanol instead of water, and we're going to see what happens. Okay. Okay, so you can see what happened to the color. Now I got to get this all to dissolve, so I'm not going to record that, but we'll come back and I'm going to take the solution once it all dissolves, because it does take a little bit of time. I'm going to put 4 mils of this solution into each of these 4 test tubes, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the solution all dissolved eventually. It took about 5 minutes or so. And I've put 4 milliliters approximately into all 4 test tubes. Alright, so test tube number 1 is going to serve as our control. That's going to just stay this color so we can see that color. Test tubes 2, 3, and 4, we're going to add a little bit of water to test tube 2 to get it to a lavender shade. And then we're going to know how much that is. We're going to add the same amount of water to 3 and 4, so we're going to try to get those all to lavender. So I'm not going to record that, but we'll come back and we'll see that test tubes 2 through 4 are all lavender. Okay, so with the help of Dr. Velkamp, I've got because I'm colorblind, I've got test tubes 2, 3, and 4 to a lavender color. Okay, it only took a couple of drops. So 1 is our control, so that's staying the same color, the ethanol color. Okay, test tube number 2, I'm going to put in the hot water bath. Test tube number 3, I'm going to put in an ice bath. And test tube number 4, I'm going to add 2 milliliters of water to. So I'm going to use test tube holder to do this. So 2 is going to go into the hot water bath, which is over here. I'm not going to show you that. I will put them back into the test tube rack so you can see the color there. So I'm going to put 2 into the warm water bath. I'm going to use another test tube holder to put 3 into the ice bath. And then to test tube number 4, I'm going to add 2 milliliters of water. Okay, so You can already see kind of what happened to the test tube number 4. And now I'm going to show you over here. There's the one in the hot water bath and the one in the ice bath. I'll pull that out. You can see that one. So here's the one in the ice. Maybe I'll leave that. Yeah. And bring over the one from the warm water bath, which the label comes off, steamed off. All right, so you can see the different colors there. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. There you go.